Joining us this morning on News Talk 550 KFYI, Senator John McCAin. Good morning, Senator. Hey, thanks first off for putting that out there and asking Secretary Napolitano point blank if she'd read the bill, because I think it really drew a lot of people to the conclusion that there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. People who just claim to know something about they don't know anything about at all.
Well, it's amazing, and that's consistent throughout the top levels of the administration. President hadn't read it. Incredibly, the Attorney General of the United States, the Chief Legal Officer, who's said that it was unconstitutional and they were going to sue, had not read it, as he was asked in a hearing. And the head of Homeland Security, our former governor, had not read it, and yet they have trashed it, and they have argued that they are, or intimated that they're going to go to court. So far, they have not, and I am under the impression that the reason why they haven't is because they can't find anything to go to court over. It's less severe than the federal law, and by the way, it's not related to what we're saying, but have you had a look at the Mexican law on immigration?
Yeah.
Ooh. But so it's what it is an exercise in pure raw politics to galvanize the Hispanic vote on behalf of the Democrats for the upcoming elections in the future. I hope it backfires on them.
Well, I stole this, so I won't take credit for it. But this morning we debuted the term undocumented Democrats. So that was rather appropriate.
I'll steal it.
Yeah, please do, Senator.
But yesterday, as you know, after meeting with the president and Republican senators, and John Kyle and I discussed the issue respectfully but strongly with the president at lunch. Immediately after that, as you know, they came out with 1,200 troops guard being dispatched to the border. We need 6,000 to the border, Jim. I'm glad it's a good first start, but we need 6,000. We need to complete the fence. We need surveillance. We need to fully fund and operate this Operation Streamline, where we put repeat illegal border crossers to jail for 15 to 60 days. We've got a lot of things to do, and frankly, 1,200 guard is a good beginning, but it doesn't come close to getting it. And ask Sheriff Babu or Larry Deaver down in Cochise County, or Babu in Pinell County, or others. They'll tell you it's not enough.
What do you say to critics? And unfortunately, this phrase contains your name as well. But what do you say to critics who say you're Johnny-come-lately to securing the border and enforcing immigration law? Well,
that's a good political ploy, but I have documentation that in 2007, I said we have to secure the border first. Running for president in 2008, I said we have to secure the border first. And in 2009, when we had hearings in Phoenix about this incredible violence that's going on along the border, and particularly on the other side of the border, John Kyle and I called for 3,000 National Guard to be sent to the border. That was so over the last several years I have said that, and so it's simply not true. It's a good political ploy, but it's not true, and I'll be glad to document it for anyone that wants to. But the fact is, Kyle and I have a 10-point plan. If we implement that 10-point plan, I am confident we can secure the border. And once we have the border secured, then we'd be glad to look at the whole issue of comprehensive immigration reform.
What do you say to those folks? And I think some of this is absolutely unfair. When people hear the term comprehensive immigration reform, instantly the A word jumps in their mind, amnesty, and people start throwing that word around.
Well, part of it's understandable because in the 1980s, under Ronald Reagan, we gave amnesty to 3 million illegal immigrants in this country on the proviso that we would secure the borders. Well, they gave them the amnesty and secured the borders, and didn't secure the borders, obviously. So there's understandable skepticism about what is going to be done, what promises are. Look, you got 12 million people who are in this country illegally. I think there's 460,000 people, the estimates are, in Arizona illegally. You're going to have to do something with them, and I'm sure we can sit down and work that out. But by the way, we need a legal temporary worker program, which the Democrats and the labor unions are unalterably opposed to. But look, you could have a proposal where someone who's been in this country and hasn't committed any crimes could go back to the country that they came from, get in line behind everybody else, and then have eligibility to come back in this country and apply for a green card in a legal fashion. The key to it is punishing employers who knowingly hire someone who is in this country illegally. If that is the case, then employers won't hire, and illegal people who are here illegally will either go back to the country that they came from or they can't find work. You see my point, Jim?
Absolutely. I see your point. I actually think we do need to expand our guest worker program. We need to and I've gotten beat up over this, but I think we need to raise legal immigration levels, because if the decent, otherwise law-abiding people that just want to come here and earn a living and they have a job for themselves here, that would funnel people through the system where we know who's coming here, as opposed to having them climb over a fence or swim across a river or whatever they do to get here. We would have an idea of actually who is in the United States. And I also find it very interesting, Senator, that the same folks who are chanting against SB 1070 and are open borders folks, they wear the Cesar Chavez T-shirts. Nobody was more against immigrant labor than Cesar Chavez.
I know it, and it's interesting how history is a bit interpreted to the benefit of those who want to interpret it in certain ways. The fact is, we also do need legal temporary worker programs. We need it in the agricultural sector in Yuma. We do. And so you could have a program where the employer advertises for the job, no American takes it, that someone could come, work legally for 9 months or a year, and then go back to the country they came from for a year and go through that process 2 or 3 times. You see what I mean? But it would have to be a legal temporary worker program. And at the higher end of the scale, there are need for some scientists, there are need for some areas of our economy that we could use highly educated people. Then let's have a legal way for them to come and work in this country, making sure that they don't take jobs from Americans. We can do that.
Senator, we're up against the clock. You are welcome to continue to join us after the news if you'd like to. I know
I'll stay.
Oh, okay.
How long we got? Is it 5 minutes?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and of course we've got some breaking news this morning. Very sad news that a Phoenix police officer has been shot dead. All the details coming up with Joe Adams in the news, as well as more with Senator John McCain here on News Talk 550 KFYI. 26 minutes away from 7 o'clock, and our guest this morning says that the up to 1,200 troops deployed to the border by the president is not enough. Senator John McCain is our guest this morning. Senator, with the terrible news this morning that a Phoenix police officer has been shot, I wanted to give you a chance to react and have a chance to say something about that.
Well, it's a terrible tragedy. Our prayers go out to the family members. Again, we can never show enough appreciation for those who are putting their lives on the line every single day for us, and God bless.
Yeah, absolutely. Terrible tragedy. I wanted to talk a little bit about your campaign here. I've had some folks say this to me. As a matter of fact, J.D. Hayworth himself said this to me, that you're campaigning harder against him than you did against President Obama, and that if you would have campaigned as hard against Obama as you are against J.D. Hayworth, that you'd be president.
Oh, really? I was campaigning all over the country, 22 hours a day, every day, for a long, long time. Anyone who says that out of ignorance, but have no doubt that I am working hard. I started working hard as soon as I lost. Thanks for reminding me, Jim.
Sorry.
and I've been all over the state. I've been working hard. I have to earn every vote. I've never taken any campaign lightly, and I take this one seriously. I'm comfortable with where we are, and I'm confident that we will win. But and by the way, I'm astonished that anyone would believe that we never declared war on Germany. I'm not making that up. That J.D. Hayworth stated that we never declared war on Germany in World War II. A lot of our veterans of World War II will be interested in hearing that. But look, and I am proud of my record of being a fiscal conservative. I've fought against the earmarked pork barrel spending. J.D. Hayworth was the most vociferous defender of this pork barrel spending, which led to corruption and members of Congress being in federal prison and Abramoff. And so I'm proud of my record, but most importantly, I believe I can be most effective for the people of Arizona and as we go through these very difficult times, including protecting our very, very important military bases.
I invited listeners to send some questions, and I've gotten to a couple of them. One other one I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
This comes from a gentleman by the name of Frank. He asks, do you intend to debate J.D. Hayworth?
Oh, I'm confident that we will be working on that. As you know, I have my duties here in the United States Senate, but we'll work on that.
Okay, fair enough. I wanted to play you a piece of sound. This is Alfredo Gutierrez, who's one of the organizers of the Arizona boycott and also one of the organizers of this march that is coming up on Saturday against SB 1070. And frankly, he calls out your in-laws' family in this soundbite. I wanted to play this for you, Senator.
The Hensley companies are owned by Cindy McCAIN. Their major product line is Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch products. We are asking people, our allies, we're asking our community to reconsider when they buy beer. There are plenty of beers in the world. There are plenty of light beers in the world. There is simply no need to support a company that is subsidizing the forces of hate in Arizona.
Wow. Your reaction to that?
It's despicable. I expected a little bit better than that from Mr. Gutierrez. I have nothing to do with my wife's business. I never have had anything to do with her business, and punish decent people who happen to work there is despicable and disgraceful. I say shame on you, Mr. Gutierrez. You're a disgrace to Arizona and to America.
What about, I've heard some people being called out on this, but I also don't think it's been loud enough. When you have other members of Congress, Alfredo Gutierrez, calling for a boycott of their own state.
It's crazy. And they're supposed to be advocates for our Hispanic citizens when 30% of our population is Hispanic, so they're punishing them. And they have yet to identify what it is in the law specifically that is somehow unconstitutional or discriminatory. They have not yet identified that. This is really one of the most interesting periods that I have observed. The national liberal media all describe the Arizona law as discriminatory, yet they cannot point to any part of it that is. But at the same time, 60, 70, 80% of the American people support the Arizona law, and I think that really is indicative of the disconnect between the liberal media and the American people, which grows wider all the time. So all I can say to these people, if you are really interested in solving the problem, let's get the border secure so that we can stop this terrible abuse of human beings that is inflicted by these human traffickers and these coyotes who inflict the most terrible cruelties on Hispanic citizens and others who come across our border. Let's get the border secure, and let's enact a plan such as you and I discussed earlier in the program and stop this kind of divisive behavior. They're free to practice it, but they're certainly not in keeping with the majority of the American people.
So many people who are on the opposite side of this, SB 1070, they seem to be, if not okay with the status quo, they seem to not want to see it change very much. And I always find that puzzling, because the people that they claim to be standing up for are the folks who are left to die in the desert, the folks who have their employers holding something over their head, the folks who are working for, scrap wages, and, they're the ones being kidnapped and held for ransom, and the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it's really amazing to me. They're saying that this law discriminates against people, and if so, then go to court and we'll see if it is or not, although every constitutional expert that I've talked to says that it is less severe than the federal law, and certainly nothing is compared to the law in Mexico. But in the meantime, don't we want to stop this terrible abuse, as you said, inflicted by the human traffickers, who, by the way, are now the same as the drug cartels that mistreat people? What was it? Rental panel truck the other day, 67 people packed inside, bring them to Phoenix, hold them for ransom, mistreat them terribly. Wouldn't they want that stopped if they're truly interested in human rights?
You had lunch with the president. By the way, the answer to what you said was yes. By the way, you had lunch with the president yesterday, and from what I understand, it was a lot of Republicans came out of that meeting and said it was not terribly friendly. It was kind of contentious, and some folks said, "Hey, how dare he just get up in the morning, come to lunch with us, and then act like he's being all bipartisan when he's being as partisan as any president we can remember."
Well, first of all, this is the most partisan administration I've ever dealt with. I mean, it's amazing the way that they jam things through without even the slightest consultation, and that was a calculation they made when they had 60 votes in the Senate and an overwhelming majority in the House. But it is the most partisan administration that I've dealt with, and it was a spirited conversation. And I did tell the president I regretted, and I was respectful to the president. He is the president of the United States, but that I thought it was really wrong of members of his cabinet to mischaracterize the Arizona law when they hadn't even read it.
What did he say to that?
He said that he still believed that the law could be open to abuse. There's no law that's ever been written that couldn't be open to abuse if it's not carried out. But that was his answer, and we went back and forth. And John Kyle and I also on the issue of securing the border first. And John Kyle pointed out, well, look, you're holding securing the border hostage to the enactment of comprehensive reform. Let's secure the border first and then move forward with that. And obviously there was a disagreement. But I want to say the conversation between myself, John Kyle, and the president was respectful, because we are respectful of the office of the president of the United States, and I always will be.
Finally, I know you've got to get going, and we do as well. What other issues? I mean, it seems that we're just talking about immigration.
Let me tell you today, they're trying to ram through repeal of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. I'm about to go to the Armed Services Committee meeting where we are moving forward with that legislation. I have letters from two of the chiefs of the services, the Commandant of the Marine Corps and the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, saying we ought to have a study first and determine the impact of the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell on the military and their battle effectiveness before we move forward with repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I believe the system is working. I believe before we should change it, we should have an assessment. Senator Levin and the administration are trying to jam through a repeal without any kind of really review of the impact of repeal. This was a campaign promise that the President of the United States made. They're trying to carry it out, and I'm telling you, it is going to be a big fight, because even though the Secretary of Defense reluctantly and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs have said they're for this, the heads of the services, Commandant of the Marine Corps, Chief of Staff of the Army, and Chief of Staff of the Air Force, say that they need a study of the impact on the services and their morale and their battle effectiveness before we move forward with repeal of it. So that's going to be an interesting few days that we're going to spend here, my friend.
I'm sure it's going to be interesting. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate you hanging on through the news and everything as well.
Pal. Thank you.
All right. Senator John McCain joining us for a few minutes this morning here